going on, guys? Texas Platinum is here with a bit of a breaking news episode for y'all today. We just heard, well, not just heard, but this afternoon, the college football world was kind of put on notice when an article dropped out of the Houston Chronicle detailing the likely occurrence of Texas and Oklahoma transitioning over from the Big 12 to the SEC conference. So we're here to discuss that all today. But before we get into it, please like and subscribe to this video, especially if you're new here. Welcome. We're hoping to reach 2K subscribers come this September 11th Arkansas game. I think that's a very doable goal. And hopefully with this video, on top of all the other videos to come, that should be definitely attainable. So share with your friends if you can, and drop us a like. Always helps as well. I'm going to throw it over to Matt Myers here, who's going to kind of detail a little bit more about what exactly happened, what's going on, as this is a constant, at the moment, a work in progress. It's not finalized yet or anything, but Myers, tell me how you're feeling and give a few instant reactions as well.
Yeah, it was really out of left field. I mean, Texas and OU and their administration have done a good job of keeping everything under wraps. It seems because just out of nowhere, like the light came on, like everywhere is reporting it. I came out, started with the Houston Chronicle, but then, I mean, Inside Texas, Orange Bloods, 247 Sports, they're all confirming they're hearing not just smoke but fire. And Texas and OU to the SEC. It seems like over the years, just historically, that's always been a rumor. Texas and OU would fit well in the SEC. The SEC's always wanted Texas. I mean, going back to the 90s. And it in 2021, with the landscape of college football, there's no doubt that the SEC is perceived as the best conference in college football. And you see that in recruiting and stuff. I mean, there's so many talented kids that go to SEC schools because they get to play in the SEC. So I think it's a good move by Chris Del Conte and the Oklahoma leadership as well to really just try to get out of the Big 12 at this point. I mean, even though the Big 12 has been formidable recently, it battles a huge perception issue being at 10 teams. No matter how good the Big 12 is, we only have 2 blue bloods in it, and we only have 10 teams. So it's just always an uphill battle, even if we are good on the field. So initial reaction is shocked, but not really surprised now that I'm digesting it all. But yeah, it's going to be a whirlwind over the next couple of weeks. I feel like I think this thing can either happen quickly or be shut down quickly. I mean, based on what Houston Chronicle said, he said it could come together within a couple weeks, which is crazy. So Matt, Madrid, what are your thoughts on the situation right now?
Yeah, so I guess we all kind of knew this day was coming. Maybe not like SEC, but like conference realignment in general. And we always knew it would come down to Texas and OU making a move like that. We made videos thinking it was going to be like a Pac-12 super conference. I think we mentioned as SEC. I don't quite remember, but we weren't really heavy on it because we probably didn't think it was gonna happen. But I would say this is good news for us just because of a marketing standpoint and just matchup wise. Football nerd in me thinks it's going to be kind of cool to play a lot of these SEC schools. But what I was also thinking about was how long has this been in the works? Because obviously it wasn't like they made a phone call yesterday and like that's when it started. I'm curious to how long CDC and like the administration was like sitting on this, or when they were plotting to make this move. But yeah, big news, man. I'm excited for it. But we'll see how the rest of the SEC votes on this, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, that's what I initially thought.
Yeah, similar thoughts for myself as well. Just really kind of was not expecting it today on Wednesday, just in the afternoon. All of a sudden got a text from Myers saying that this is in the works. And I think all of us just about lost our minds for a second, just out of the surprise, not necessarily out of the possibility, but just the fact that it seemed to come out of thin air. Pretty amazing how they were able to keep that under wraps for so long. Myers, do you have any other additional details that you can share based off of what you've heard at the moment and for the time being? Of course, like we said at the beginning of the video, this is a very fluid thing happening. So hopefully we're able to cover all that is needed to be covered come the time that we actually release this thing later tonight.
Right. Yeah, I do. So it's looking like this thing has already moved far along enough where it's a vote's going to occur in the next week or so, I would imagine. And it's looking like it needs to be a supermajority vote. You know, all the presidents in every university in the SEC has to vote yes or no on inviting Texas and Oklahoma to the conference. And supermajority, that would be 11 out of 14 teams have to say yes for Texas and OU to get the invitation. I know Kirk Bowles reported that it would be just a majority vote, which would obviously be like 7 or 8 teams, but I think it's actually super majority. So that makes things harder. But yeah, I think a lot of, things I'm reading right now are insinuating that it's kind of more on the side of a done deal than up in the air, which is exciting and really shocking altogether. But yeah, I think right now we're just kind of in wait and see mode, just trying to uncover more as it comes, because really we're not going to know anything until a vote is set up to occur. And but yeah, as far as Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, if they were to keep divisions, I think Texas and OU would slide in nicely into the SEC West, and then you move the Alabama schools over to the SEC East, and then you'd have the natural rivalries of Arkansas, Texas, A&M, Oklahoma in the West, and you still have LSU and the Mississippi schools and Missouri out there. And then the East, you'd have kind of the old SEC besides like South Carolina. You're missing some of the Mississippi schools, but geographically, it makes a lot of sense. There's also a lot of politics that are involved. I mean, Oklahoma State is very much tied to the hip of Oklahoma and like the state legislator of Oklahoma. So Oklahoma State's already put out a statement kind of, being very passive aggressive about Oklahoma pursuing the SEC, because let's be honest, the Big 12, as soon as Texas and OU jump ship,
it's done.
And all these teams like TCU, Kansas State, Baylor that have been clowning us over the years when they've beaten us, when we've had our bad coaching hires, they're realizing who daddy is and the reason that they're even in a Power 5 conference. So I think Texas Tech, West Virginia, Iowa State will land on their feet, but the other schools, it's going to be a really stressful couple of weeks for them.
I guess a lot of the aftermath of this news is, do you guys like see these conferences turning into like big 16 team conferences, or do you think everyone in the SEC would stay, is what I'm trying to say? Like, is 16 too much, or what do you think?
I don't know. I think it could definitely
I think
go
it's
either.
all right, but like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's like the whole divisions thing. Like, we always prided ourselves on like playing every player, every team. But obviously in 16 teams you can't do that. So I don't know. This is something I was thinking about.
Yeah. I don't know. My safe bet, kind of what I'm thinking, is that, yeah, I could see it, something happening to where the Big 12 would dissolve and it would ultimately leave 4 super conferences, essentially, just because I feel like that's probably what the majority of the established conferences, like the Big 10, that's already so big, like the SEC and like the Pac 12. All of those are very big conferences as it is. I guess there's always the possibility of the Big 12 staying as is and just bringing in, a couple more schools that are looking to, level up, essentially. It could go either way. It really kind of comes down to like how favorable some of those other schools, like a Texas Tech, like a Baylor, like an Oklahoma State, would be to some of these other conferences. I don't know if how open the Pac-12 would be to receiving some of those more Western teams, like the Texas Tech and such. I'm sure the Big 10 would like an Iowa State back, or Kansas State for that matter, Kansas. I It's hard. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I could see it going either way in terms of that.
Yeah, I think that this whole Texas Oklahoma SEC pending deal kind of holds the keys for how the rest of realignment will shake out in the new landscape of college football. Because let's say Texas and OU joined the SEC, even if you took like cherry picked all the big programs across the country, USC, Washington, Oregon, Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, you could maybe make one other conference that's comparable to an SEC with Texas and OU.
Yeah.
So I don't think there could be 4 super conferences if Texas and OU join the SEC. I think there'd be like maybe 2 or 3 max. But I think more likely if Texas and OU were to join the SEC, it would kind of just enter like a Champions League era of college football where the SEC has the autonomy kind of go out and just cherry pick an Ohio State, a Michigan, a Penn State, or Wisconsin if they wanted them. Because I mean, at that point, like I'm saying, even if you added up all these superpowers to try to match the SEC, it's still going to be really close. So it's going to kind of become a situation where if you can't beat them, join them. It's kind of how I see it playing out as far as the landscape of college football. But yeah, it's all speculation. I mean, honestly, nobody knows at this point.
Madrid, any additional thoughts? Should we shift gears here?
I think we should shift gears a little bit, just because a lot of it's just speculation right now. I mean, it sounds like a done deal in the sense of like it's getting a vote, but there is this super majority. I already heard about a few teams. I mean, obviously, Aggie's gonna probably say no, and then Missouri was probably gonna say no from what we just hear from right now. But that would mean they only need what, 3 more. Wait, no, 3 more votes to. I think so, because the supermajority would be 11. Anyways, but yeah, I think that's a little bit of an uphill battle. But just the fact that no Texas representative or OU representative or SEC representative in general was like, oh no, this is just total hogwash, just total rumors, is like a pretty telltale sign that like, yeah, like get ready for conference realignment in general. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Basically, even if this SEC deal doesn't go through, I think at this point it's kind of the writing's on the wall for the Big 12 as a whole. Like even if we don't go to the SEC, I think we would look at the Big 10 or the ACC before deciding to rekindle the Big 12 and try to bring in teams in the next couple of years. I think the Big 12 in its heyday was awesome, but once Nebraska and Colorado and A&M all bolted, even if we've recovered the conference on the field, perception-wise, it's really at a disadvantage, like I've been saying. And also financially, it's still above the ACC, still above the Pac-12, but it's not Big Ten money or SEC money. And I think that's what everybody's going to be chasing is, in the expanded playoffs, a money grab. After COVID, everybody's, looking for the big revenue shares. So I think it's going to be a big money grab here, and it's just a new age of college football.
Most definitely. Let's transition a little bit to recruiting thoughts. I mean, obviously, if Texas and Oklahoma left for the SEC, that would throw recruiting into a whirlwind. I feel like Texas has always, had the opportunity to be like a recruiting power just on brand alone. At one point, not even too long ago, Texas was ruling the recruiting landscape, and that was with the Big 12. Them and the SEC, as well as Oklahoma, I think can make both teams, consistent top 5 in terms of football rankings for recruiting, because Oklahoma has kind of gotten there with Lincoln Riley, but certainly for a while they were always, kind of like top 10-ish, maybe even outside of the top 10. But add that whole SEC card into the whole thing, and I think they can turn into like a Georgia, type recruiter. Which maybe if you look at Oklahoma historically as well, like Texas, they did at one time kind of rule recruiting. I don't know. It just makes me wonder about how that'll affect some of these other SEC schools, like a Texas A&M. Hell, even like a Georgia, like I just said, will they still be, preeminent, top 5 type recruiters, or is that going to shift around? And then also you got to look at, compare it to the Big 12 and other conferences. How will they be affected in terms of recruiting? Basically just a lot of changing, shifting parts and such in terms of recruiting momentum that I see. And I wonder at the end of the day if it comes down to recruiting as one of the key factors as to, why this may or may not go through.
Mhm.
Yeah, point blank. I mean, Texas has really been struggling on the recruiting trail recently because we're not in the SEC. I mean, Inside Texas just reported today that they talked to a 5-star that said he would commit on the spot if Texas joined the SEC. So, and that's kind of how it's been over the last 5 years, especially with A&M picking up under Jimbo. I mean, that's still like 90% of their pitch is SEC. Come play in the SEC. Come play against Bama.
Same with
And,
OU. That's why they've struggled too.
Yeah. So we neutralize that, and then it's an even playing field in terms of pitching a conference that A&M hasn't won. But yeah, recruiting will definitely skyrocket for Texas and Oklahoma, and really just even out the arms race in that department. So yeah, recruiting would go nuclear without a doubt. Texas, they say in today's college football you can't lock down Texas anymore, and that's largely because A&M being the single school in Texas really kind of shifted everything in a different direction. But if Texas and OU were to join the SEC, then it's kind of going to go. I think it would kind of run how it used to, with Texas and Oklahoma kind of running the show in the Big 12 in terms of recruiting. But obviously, Texas would have to improve their on-the-field product first, because we're not winning at a Bama or Oklahoma level right now. So yeah, recruiting would definitely take off. That's without a doubt. That's definitely got to be some of the reasons why Del Conte and company are pursuing this decision.
I like what you said about Texas A&M joining the SEC and immediately getting that recruiting bump. And now that I'm thinking about it a lot more, it's just because I wouldn't say it's just because, but a good reason for that is being the only Texas school in the SEC. Like, it's just like first movers advantage right there. Like as soon as like a bigger dog like OU and us comes in, that's just, I don't know, that's way more. You're right. It evens out the playing field, and we could put some of those recruiting woes to A&M, at least in Texas, to rest a little bit, because it just even things out. That was a really good point.
Yeah, let's go ahead and I guess touch a little bit on A&M. They've so far spoken out probably the most out of all of these teams in terms of instant reactions. We heard both from Jimbo Fisher and then also a quote from their athletic director, Ross Bork, I guess is his name. I
Something like that.
never even actually really seen it before, but that's because I don't really follow Texas A&M athletics to that extent. But quote from him was, "We want to be the only SEC program in the state of Texas." And of course, he said a lot more than that. But that's kind of a quote that's going a bit viral right now, especially amongst Texas fans that, of course, are excited to see A&M get a little bit worried and apprehensive at the possibility of something like this happening. What do y'all think about A&M's reluctancy to having these two schools join? To me, I think it's an obvious fear that they'd possess, being that that was such a distinct advantage for them. You bring in Texas and Oklahoma, you got a lot more competition, and you no longer are that sole proprietor, owner of that brand, essentially in Texas, because that's really been their calling card ever since they left. The whole SEC brand married very well with Johnny Football when that all happened, all in one season. And married the two together. I mean, you think A&M, you think SEC, they've just really honed in on that. So once, if Texas and Oklahoma were to transition over, that branding would become a bit obsolete, and they'd have to get pretty creative in terms of what distinguishes them. And I don't know. That's a scary thought for them, especially when it seemed, after last season, which was so successful and a big Orange Bowl win, it was looking like, they were right about to, hop on a rocket ship and take off. But if something like this goes through and they aren't able to, I don't know, make a playoff or do something really substantial in the next couple seasons, that might be they might fall back considerably. Madrid, do you have anything in terms of that?
Yeah, I mean, like point blankly, it takes away their one card that they play against every argument that we bring up about renewing rivalry or join the SEC or anything like that. For the longest time with them, it was basically like, oh, y'all had the chance to renew this rivalry, or back in the day, there's no reason for us to play an out of conference game, to do whatever like that. But but in this case, we're coming to them. Like, it's like, okay, we're gonna put the money where your mouth is right now, and we're gonna do it the way we want to do it, and we're gonna come to your front door and play you guys. And I think that's something they weren't expecting. I think it's something they low key probably fear too, because they didn't have a good time with us in the same when we were in the same conference, and rightfully so. So yeah, I think it takes away their one calling card, and they're terrified by that, and that's probably why they're gonna vote no.
Yeah, A&M is going to do everything in their power to stop this, but I don't think they're have that much pull in the SEC, being the new kid on the block. I just don't. I mean, I've heard that Georgia, South Carolina, and a couple other schools have like handshake agreements that will vote against another state school joining the conference, to like kind of get each other's backs. But I don't know if that's true or not. And yeah, I think the quotes of their athletic director today were kind of embarrassing. It's kind of revealing that they literally left the conference. Like, he's just saying it out to the public. They left the conference because they were little brother. They didn't want to be little brother anymore.
Saying the quiet part loud.
They're still little brother because he's like, if A&M is ascended to this new height in the SEC, then wouldn't they be excited for Texas to come in here and be their new little brother and start beating us every year? So they're still definitely, they're still. I mean, to put it bluntly, they're running scared and don't want to play Texas. I mean, that sounds homerish all that, but that's kind of what's going on here. And I don't know why they don't want to settle it on the field, but it's looking like they may just be forced into it, which will be even more of a bad look on their part if they're just like, if they vote no and it goes through 13-1 or 12-2, it's accepted. It would just, the optics would shift on everything. Their whole identity is the SEC. All they say is, we play in big stadiums. We play in a league that sends a bunch of draft picks to the NFL. Blah blah blah. We've won like 6 of the last 7 championships or whatever it is, with Bama winning all those titles. That all goes out the window, and then and then thankfully the Twitter wars that are never ending. It's
hypotheticals
like on social media. It's not even a real rivalry anymore, and that's just so exhausting, so childish. Honestly, sad. So I'd be so happy to see them on the schedule again and be in the same conference with them, so we can kind of settle it like real men do on the field.
I just want to add real quick, like, they want to act like Big Brother and act like they run things until it's time to actually prove that they can do it, like on a field or where it really counts, where stats are counted and stuff like that. I just find that fascinating. They're all keyboard warriors until it's time to put up or shut up. So this is put up or shut up time. So what are you gonna do? Prove it to me.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And I don't know. It'll definitely make it'll make everything interesting, and assuming that everything goes through, we'll definitely, that'll be a very entertaining place to monitor and just kind of see how Texas A&M goes about managing that if it goes through. I mean, could they refuse to play Texas and Oklahoma? I mean, there's no way they could refuse, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me either. What if they left? Right? What if they left the SEC and they're like, no, we're going to the Big 12? I don't know. Or if they just, get real mature about it and, like you said, take more of a settle it on the field approach. Very, very key to be able to, watch that and see how that progresses. Any other, I guess, final points as we kind of wrap this episode up? I know one thing that we kind of wanted to discuss is, as Meyer alluded to at the beginning of this episode, Texas has kind of eyed the SEC for a while now. For a while. And one thing that always kind of kept Texas away historically has been Texas's perception of itself in terms of an academic institution. As well as, a school of high moral integrity, and all of that talk. What's kind of looking to happen is a bit of a shift here. I think that the SEC has become so powerful and so stands so above all the other conferences that Texas is willing to kind of put those past notions to bed. And it is kind of funny. I mean, they always were like, oh, we got to be in a conference that's, academically elite. The Big 12 is not academically elite. Let's be real. I guess
no,
you can talk yourself into it.
Don't do it.
You can talk yourself into like Oklahoma and Baylor and some of those private schools maybe
hardcore convincing.
Yeah,
but okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the SEC is, a step down, especially if A&M's in the conference. I mean, A&M's not a bad academic institution. Neither is Florida or Georgia.
Schools. Yeah.
Florida and Georgia are great schools. Vanderbilt, that's way better than Iowa State. No offense, but so the academics argument, I think, can kind of be put to bed. And then in terms of just moral integrity, come on. We finally have an athletic director that seems to really prioritize winning.
Exactly.
Because that's
all that matters at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise we would have been eyeing the Pac-12, which the issue with the Pac-12 is no one really cares about it. Myers, I know you obviously have some thoughts. What do you think about kind of the older approach to the SEC in terms of Texas fans kind of resenting it for all these years?
Yeah, we've learned to not like the SEC. I get the resentment towards the conference. We do think it's overrated. At the top, they're great. Obviously, Bama and Georgia, and they have LSU come up every now and then. But the SEC makes a lot of money, and they send a lot of kids to the league. They win a lot of championships in football. And football drives everything. So I don't know, what's the better alternative for Texas? Assuming that the Big 12's dying, the Pac-12, we're going to go jump on a sinking ship in an apathetic West Coast that doesn't care about college football, quite frankly, besides maybe Oregon and Washington. The Big 10, I could get behind that, but geographically, it's horrible. They have good academics. They have big-time football, but playing in Indiana, for the majority of our games, up in the Midwest.
No, playing up north for the majority of our games. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. We don't need to be doing that. We're Texas. I think the SEC does make the most sense if the Big 12 dies. An alternate idea would be the ACC with maybe OU. That would be a decently powerful conference, but I still don't like that fit at all. I prefer the SEC. The SEC just is a natural fit, and I get that people hate the SEC, but you have to think about recruiting, revenue. Think about the matchups. It'd be a lot of fun to play in
Yes.
A&M on the schedule every year, and then you get the Mississippi schools, and then obviously you'd rotate with Bama, Georgia, Florida. Way better than the schedule we're playing. Let's be honest, man. A lot of people don't buy season tickets for Texas now because the schedule is so bad, and I've heard that from a bunch of different people. That's fact, and Del Conte knows that. He's a smart guy. So I think you got to just go for it, and Stark's got to win, because if we join and make a super conference, it's not going to be easy to win there. So we need to get it rolling with Stark. But yeah, if the Big 12 is dying, then yeah, I think the SEC would be the smart move.
Myers, could you read out loud? Didn't you send a message about potential conference groupings that, I don't know if you saw it or you just determined it yourself. But when I saw it, I was really excited about, the potential slate of, yearly conference games that Texas would be playing. But the point about, us playing SEC schools is absolutely right. Tickets would definitely be a lot more desirable than, playing like some of the schools that we're playing right now, Kansas State, Kansas, Iowa State, West Virginia.
Yeah. If you don't mind me, like it was the tweet, Matt, you sent about the East and West divisions, and the West for us would be OU, us, A&M, Mizzou, Arkansas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. That's already more exciting than like I would want to go to every single one of those games. Those are amazing games right there. Like those are fun. Maybe not amazing games, I should say, but at least fun matchups,
Yeah, definitely. And then in the East would also be really stacked with Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. And that's just one scenario where they split it right down the middle. I mean, there's a seamless, it makes sense to do, a lot of sense to go West and East and just cut it down the middle, move the Bama schools over. But I've also heard and read that they could think about doing a pod system where, let's say Texas has 3 protected rivals they play every year. Let's say it's Arkansas, OU, and LSU. We play them every year and then rotate the rest. So it'd be like another 5 conference games.
Not A&M?
Well, A&M, yeah. A&M's in there too. I didn't mention them, but A&M, yeah. So let's just say whoever it is, you have 3 protected games you play every year, and then the rest rotate. So you do clear the conference slate every 2 or 3 years. You play everybody. You keep all the old rivalries. Bama still plays Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee. So I think something like that would be really cool too, to just kind of keep it where everybody plays everybody and you have the same old rivalries every year.
That would be so good. That is such a beautiful system. If that were to work. Any additional thoughts then? I guess final thoughts as we kind of wrap up this episode. I'll toss it back to you, Madrid. Anything
I just got one thing to say. Cardale Jones back in the past had a tweet that said, We didn't come here to play school. We came here to play football. And that's exactly what this move is. Forget about integrity. Forget about academics. This is about football, and this is about money. And this is a good decision for Texas. So embrace it.
I love it. Myers, you got anything? That's such a great.
He's right, man. If this is the deal, let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, I don't have any problems with it. So I trust our administration. We finally have, like you said, winners that want to win. I mean, Hartsell and Del Conte at the top. It's great leadership in terms of athletics. They really care about athletics, really care about winning. So yeah, I mean, I'm all in.
Definitely. Again, I think I can speak for all of us and probably most Texas fans, just really surprised to hear the news today about this potentially happening. But yeah, in terms of my opinion, I absolutely would be enthralled to move over to the SEC alongside Oklahoma. I'm very curious though, like what's the butterfly effect of that happening? Like, how does that influence the rest of college football? It gets me a tad bit nervous. I'm not going to lie, just about the school, the rest of the schools in the Big 12, as well as, even like the Pac-12 and ACC seems relatively strong, but some of those other conferences that are, a bit weak right now, kind of what dominoes would fall as a result. So definitely something to consider in this move. Not that we're voting or anything, but something to look at and be aware of and be cognizant of. But yeah, this could be huge. This coupled along with the changing of the playoff structure that'll be happening in a couple seasons now, and the NIL, it's a lot of changes all happening at once, but exciting nonetheless. Any more additional thoughts, or are we good to wrap this bad boy up?
I'll leave it with this. There are a lot of hurdles and politics and stuff to clear before something like this gets approved and the invite goes to Texas and OU. So I wouldn't put too many, get your hopes up too high, but I think there's a reasonable chance that this could happen and in short order based on what is being reported. So yeah, we'll just see how it plays out, really. I'm sure we'll have more videos on it in the future.
Madrid.
That was good for me.
Okay. Well, to all of those that watched this video, thank you for doing so. Please like and subscribe, as I said. And again, if you're new here, excited about the potential news of Texas and OU shifting over to the SEC, and this is your first time you're watching one of our videos, welcome. Please consider subscribing, and it really help us out a lot. If this continues to progress and go through, there's going to be more videos on this, a lot more exciting topics. We got a lot of great things in store for y'all in the upcoming month or so as the season quickly approaches. We're shifting into go mode. College football is almost here, and this coupled with the rest of it really is gonna there's gonna be a lot of entertaining content coming to our channel soon. So please consider subscribing or sharing if you haven't already. Will really help us out a lot. So with all that said, y'all take care, continue to be vigilant, and hopefully we hear more news about this, and hopefully it's good for both Texas and Oklahoma. So y'all take care. Okay.
Yeah.